Guys, some of you know me, some of you don't, but if you know me and you know my wife, there's one thing you can say about us is we don't get along when it comes to our diets. We could not be farther across the board on that. We are on separate pages. In fact, we don't even shop together. And we stopped that real early in our marriage. We got a couple rules, though. One is she's not supposed to spend but so much money. And the rule she gives me is that I got to put some type of fruit or vegetable into my diet. Man, that's hard. So I go to Walmart, and I go there once a week, and I've got a budget. And, as I'm walking through, I'm in the back of my mind, I know my rule. I got to get something. So one of the things I like to get is a bag of apples. To me, it's cheap. It's something I can grab on the go. But let me tell you how these apples work during the week. See, when I get started the day, I pack my lunch, because a lot of days I'm just traveling a lot in the road, and I need food there. And man, I pack this thing with Pop-Tarts, pack this thing with just chips, and I'll have a turkey sandwich in there, and then I'll put that apple in there. Well, when I leave the house, I'm pretty confident I'm not eating that apple. In fact, I play this game all day long where I just kind of look at that apple. As I push it aside, I grab whatever's in my bag. So as you can imagine, as I get home at the end of the day and I put my bag up there, my wife gets home a little later and she'll make the comment the next day, and she'll be looking through it and she'll see all the empty wrappers and there's that apple. And she'll say, well, I guess that apple took a ride again today, didn't it? And we'll get a good laugh, and then I'll put it right back in the bag, and I'll do the same thing over again. The one thing I should be in that bag is the apple, but I'm not. Isn't that just kind of how life works? The one thing that we should be doing, we're not doing. And guys, for me, in the past couple months, I've been kind of, what I would best characterize as a Groundhog Day. You guys seen that movie with Bill Murray, Groundhog? All right, if you haven't, it's this weatherman that goes and he's there, he's reporting, and he's reporting on this groundhog that comes out, and he's supposed to tell what the weather's going to be like. But he wakes up the next day and he relives the whole day again. And over again, he's reliving this day, and he's kind of trapped in this kind of like time loop where everything's the same. Well, for me, guys, for the past couple months, that's kind of how it's felt. I've kind of had this Groundhog Day. And let me kind of give you a picture of what my Groundhog Day looks like. I wake up in the morning after I've hit the snooze button several times. I've got these great intentions of getting up early and praying and reading God's Word. But as I hit that snooze button, I give myself just enough time to pack my lunch, grab that apple, grab my Bible because I'm going to read it on the way, and I get on the road. And I get my praying done as I'm going down the road. Well, it's not long before, as I'm praying, I get a phone call. And I don't answer that phone call, but it's in the back of my mind. I'm thinking, who's calling me now? And I don't even know if I finished my conversation with God, because my mind is already reeling for the day. And that's it. And guys, that's what it looks like. I basically call it like clocking out with God and clocking into work. And that's the best way I can explain it. Because once the work day starts for me, that's my whole focus. And everything that's going on in the day is my focus. Everything right in front of me. So as I go through the day, I'm experiencing all these phone calls. And in my position, I get a lot of phone calls from owners. And they're not usually calling me, telling me what a great job we're doing. They're usually calling to tell me all the things we're not doing. And that really is a struggle for me, because a lot of times what I have to do is go tell my guys what they're not doing. And based on the frustration they're feeling, I'm basically relaying the same frustration to them by the way I'm delivering. And I'm going through this in my day, and it's just wearing me out. And, by the end of the day, I head home and, put my bag up, and my wife is home, and she wants to tell me about her day. Well, I don't know how to better put this, guys, but I sit there and listen, but I'm not listening. All I'm doing is reeling. I'm having this highlight reel of my day and all the things going on, and all I can think about is all the stuff that I went through. And I'm inconsiderate, and I'm not compassionate to her needs. But I'm there, but I'm not really there. And, this goes on for a little while, and then, I get tired, and we try to spend a little time, and a lot of times it's me just, dragging myself out of bed and getting down and praying with her, and then I go to bed, and then the next day alarm goes off, and the whole day relives itself. And guys, I don't know, if you have these days, but I've been having these days for the past couple months, and, something happened along the road one day, and as I was driving down the road, and I was grabbing something out of my bag, I took the apple and I set it down on my seat next to me, and I put it right on top of my Bible. And when I did that, guys, I looked down in my Bible and I realized something. The same thing that apple was doing is it was taking a ride with me. My Bible was just taking a ride with me throughout the day, but it was just sitting there just like that apple. And God really broke me right there, and he said, you know what, you have not spent any time with me. You have thought about nothing but the things in front of you. Your mind has been completely consumed with your day. So I just said, okay. And I submitted to that, and I just decided that I was going to change that. It's best the way I knew how. And God led me to some scripture, and I want to share that with you guys right now because it's had a huge impact on me and really in the past several weeks. I'm going to be reading out of Colossians. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Colossians, but I'll just kind of give you a quick summary. This is a letter that Paul wrote to the church of Colossae, and what he does is he's making a case basically of who Christ is. He's saying Christ is at the head. He's supreme. And because of what he's done on the cross, he has opened us up to a freedom of everything, a freedom in him. And as Paul is kind of making this case, he always, then makes the point to say, okay, how does this apply to us? And I want to read this. This is in chapter 3 of Colossians. It says, since then you have been raised with Christ. Set your heart on things above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above and not on earthly things. For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear in glory. As I read this, and I read it over and over again, I started to really think about this, and I started to think about how this applied to me, and what Paul was saying here was saying basically, look, you've been resurrected with Christ, but you don't act like it. You don't live that way. In fact, he goes on to say, set your heart on things above where Christ is seated. Basically what he's saying here is he's saying, stop looking down at the ground. Stop looking at the stuff 6 inches in front of you. Start looking up. And start thinking about the things that Christ is thinking about. It goes on to say, not think about the things above, but on earthly things. All I've been consumed with is all the things right in front of me. And guys, I hear a lot of people say, well, I'm just going through that season in my life. I'm just going through a real tough time right now in my life. I'm going through something, and once I get through that, then I'll be able to get on the other side of things. I've been going through that for 2 months. But when God opened my eyes to see that what I was doing, the one thing I needed to be doing, I wasn't doing, I started to apply that to my life. And I want to kind of give you a picture now of what the last 2 weeks have looked like. For me in the morning now, it's getting started early enough so that I'm not rushed going out of the house. And I'll tell you, it takes a lot to get me up to do that. And it didn't used to, but it's been tough. But as I've gotten up and I've spent time in God's Word and I've left the house, I just am more prepared to face those phone calls. And it's funny, those phone calls didn't stop coming in. They kept coming in. The day basically didn't change in terms of my circumstances. What started to change was my response. What started to change was my heart. What started to change was with the things that I thought about. So when I got that phone call from someone, I started to think about how can I honor God in the way that I respond to this person? How can I start to just think about what's important to Christ? And I didn't really have to do a whole lot of work here, guys. See, because that's the secret about it, is that Christ begins to work through that, and He starts to work through us. And my response in the way that I was carrying that message to my guys started changing. But just to kind of give you a picture of a day, quite honestly, I don't know that I'll forget here soon because it was a pretty rough day. But in the process of applying this, I want to share that with you. As I got up, I got a phone call, and I got a phone call from an owner that was very, very upset about an ongoing issue. Now, quite honestly, I have really felt like our company was really not at fault in this. But because we're in it, I've fielded every single call. And as I'm listening to this guy, and he starts to yell and cuss at me, I really start to think about God. And I start to pray, and I start to pray why he's cussing at me. And I responded in a way and said, yes, I understand you're upset. I understand things aren't going well. Let me see if I can work on that. And as I was going down the road, I had to be at a meeting in about 30 minutes. So, I could have just focused on that, but I said, you know what, God, I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to start focusing on what you have in front of me and what you want to do. So I started praying for the opportunity I was going to have with this guy that I was getting ready to go see. Now, it was work-related, but I wanted to see what God had in store. So as I got to my meeting, was up in Culpeper, Virginia, I was getting ready to get out of my car to go meet with this guy. And I was pretty dressed up. I was looking fairly nice. I had slacks on and a shirt. I love Diet Pepsis. I get them at Sheetz all the time. And, I love them so much, sometimes I don't even drink them. They just sit there. I tried to drink maybe a couple of them, but this one happened to be sitting overnight, so I had to throw it out. Well, I chose to throw it out about the minute I was getting out the car. Well, as I grabbed it out of the cup holder, I don't know what happened, but I dumped that thing all over me. All over me. I had Diet Pepsi all over my pants, into my boxers, down my socks, rolling down my legs. My seat was totally soaking wet. My shirt was soaking wet. And here I was about to walk into this guy's office. What do? I prayed. I said, God, you know what? I don't want to respond in anger. I don't want to respond in frustration. And you know what? The minute I started praying, guess what? The phone rang. It was my wife. I don't know about you guys, but we tend to take out our frustrations on the ones we love the most. And as she called and I saw it, I said, God, you know what? I'm not going to take this out on her. And I started to go into what was happening. And guys, I'm not a very gentle guy as it is. But, God helped me to be really gentle with my wife and say, honey, right now is not the time. I need to take care of this situation. I will call you back when I get done. So I got off with her. I called the guy, said, look, I'm going to be 15 minutes. I didn't know how long I was going to be. I was in Culpeper. I didn't know where I was going. So I get on my phone, and man, I don't care what anybody says. Phones are great. I GPS men's department, and it comes up with a TJ Maxx and this Belk. So I'm driving around all around Culpeper, trying to find a men's department store, soaking wet. It wasn't going to go home. I mean, it was a 2-hour drive for me. So I find a Belk, and it's a standalone place. I walk in there. I'm fully drenched. I grab some pants. I grab a shirt. I grab some boxers. I grab some socks. I go in the fitting room, completely changed, ball up all my stuff, and I go to the counter, and I'm talking to the lady. She's like, does this ever happen? She's like, yeah, a lot of little boys come in here with accidents all the time. Did that send me over the edge? Could have. 2 months ago, maybe. But no, I just laughed, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And as I left, I was 15, 20 minutes late. I went to go see the guy, and we had a good laugh, and it opened up conversation with him, and a conversation I didn't even think I would ever have with this guy. And as I went home that day, I shared that with my wife. And I have been really moved, guys, to start to think about what God thinks about. Instead of looking down at the ground, kicking stones, and really, realizing that my days may not change, in terms of the things that I'm faced with. But how I respond and how I feel is completely changed. And today I want you guys to be thinking about that. And what I'd like you to do at your table is to start talking a little bit about something in your life that you just keep facing day in and day out. And then I want you to kind of start to look at it from the perspective of God. And I want you to ask the question about how you might be able to put your mind on heavenly things, things above in that situation, and how that applies. I think for me, guys, it was one of those things that, I've thought about, I need to pray more, I need to read my Bible, I need to do these things. But honestly, until I saw that apple, and until I saw that Bible sitting there, we could make this thing just something we do, but how do we apply it to our day? And as you guys are talking today, I really want you to think about that, is how do you really take the things above and apply that to your day? So just to kind of close out here, I just want to read a little bit more from Paul. And I love this. This is what happens when we put our minds on Christ and our hearts on Christ. And He dresses us in the morning. And it says here, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Guys, I didn't pray to be more gentle. I didn't pray to be more patient. I didn't pray to be more kind. I just started praying. And I started talking to God. And that's the secret, guys. He starts to work out the stuff in us. And as He becomes bigger in our lives, the things around us become so much smaller. And I just want you guys to experience that this morning. So that's what we're going to do this morning, is just kind of talk through that. So thanks for letting me share. One of the things that we have been trying to do, at least I understand from, kind of missed a few weeks, but really taking what we learned here and applying it to our week. And last week there was a message that was given, and Ray had an opportunity to, actually it was a couple weeks ago, and Ray had an opportunity to apply that. And we just want to take a minute and let Ray share that with you and what that looked like.
Hi, guys. 2 weeks ago, Mike Rosser, it was the Mike week. It was the Mike week. We had Mike and Mike. But Mike Rosser shared with us, and they were wearing the shirts, no more excuses. Just to set this up, about 2.5, 3 months ago, a lady by the name of Kathy Newton, who goes to Blue Ridge, had an experience with Ed over here and his family, and she called me and asked me, this man needs to be reached out to. And she was telling me the story about him and all, and not mentioning his name. And when she told me retired FBI, and I said, Ed Solzbach? And she says, you know Ed? And I said, yeah. As a matter of fact, I've known Ed one day a year for 10 years at the Pancake Jamboree in Lynchburg Exchange Club. So she says, I need to have you call him. So I said, all right. So I wrote down his name. I wrote down the phone number on the back of my business card, put it on my clipboard that I keep in my van. And day after day after day, I take notes, and that card would get a little bit further down in my clipboard. And I would make excuses. She would ask me, call me and say, hey, did you talk to Ed? And I'm saying, well, I'm too busy. I'm not going to get to it this week. I've had a 12-hour day. And, you know, any excuse that we can use like we all do. And I would take that card out, and I would put it to the top of the clipboard, and it would manage to get down there again. And this went on for a couple of months. The card has coffee stains on it. It's dog-eared. It's tattered. But I kept bringing it up. Well, the Thursday before, 2 weeks ago last Thursday, I had Ed's card and number, and I brought it up to the top of my clipboard again. And Kathy probably contacted me, called me, texted me, emailed me, I would say 6 or 7 times. And I kept coming up with the excuse that I just didn't have time to do it. So that Thursday, I put it on the top of the clipboard, and I still didn't do it until when Saturday Mike talked about no more excuses. I called Ed that following Thursday, so it still took me 4 or 5 days. And we talked for half an hour at least, and I invited him here. And then that night he called me back again, and we talked for another half hour. And then he showed up last week and gave his life to Christ. So all because of that.
So what we do in here really does matter. And guys, I don't know how the tables went this morning, but I'm hoping that as we leave out of here that we can apply this to the week. And as you guys apply this, just really ask yourself, you know, what are the things that are in front of me that I've been focusing on, and how can I look up and start thinking on things above? And you know, I just wanted to make sure the camera's on, right?
Camera's on.
Got this apple here. Make sure my wife gets a good look at this. She'll love this.
Good stuff, Andy.
Eat you.
Camera off.
Turn it off. Throw it away. Eat your apple, guys. Apply this stuff to your life, and next week come back and tell us about it. Woody, would you close it out?